You could almost hear the stitching tear. Not on a jersey. On the very fabric of the Cleveland Browns front office. A quiet implosion. Controlled chaos. Because the second Shedeur Sanders SS crown exploded into a global phenomenon, Kevin Stefanski didn't just lose control of a locker room. He lost control of a narrative. And in the NFL, that's career suicide. 1 minute. Shedeur was just a poised, laser-focused rookie quarterback.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Trying to earn his stripes in a franchise known for chewing up talent and spitting it out. The next, he was a walking empire. A cultural movement disguised as a QB. A phenomenon so big, so fast, that even Nike servers waved a white flag. And Cleveland? They weren't ready. Not even close. See, this wasn't just about football anymore. It was about power, about control. And when Stefanski and the Browns brass realized they were no longer the primary authors of Shedeur's story, they panicked. They started terminating contracts. Not Shedeur's, of course. Not yet. That would have sparked a fan revolt and a legal firestorm. No, they started with the infrastructure, the periphery, quiet firings, PR handlers, marketing staff, consultants who got a little too cozy with the Sanders camp, anyone who looked like they might be whispering outside the building, anyone who didn't stick to the script. Because SS Crown wasn't just a merch line, it was a message. The logo, that simple crown, it was rebellion, sovereignty. It said, I don't need your system, I am the system. And that terrified the Browns more than any busted coverage or failed third down conversion ever could. Shedeur wasn't just playing football, he was reframing it. And it broke Cleveland's brain. Because in a league built on conformity, on strict routine, sanitized sound bites, and a well-oiled corporate machine, here was his rookie launching a global brand, crashing Nike's supply chain, and turning suburban moms into hype beasts. And doing it all without permission. He didn't go through team branding. He didn't clear it with corporate. He didn't sit down with the league's marketing advisors and ask, can I be iconic now? He just did it. And suddenly, Cleveland wasn't managing a quarterback. They were babysitting a cultural revolution. And Stefanski, he snapped. Sources say it started with closed-door meetings. Then came the realignment, restructuring, code words for gutting departments. People were told they were no longer aligned with the team's vision. Translation? They didn't panic fast enough. They didn't help contain SS Crown. Because make no mistake, the Browns weren't celebrating the brand's success. They were threatened by it. Shedeur was supposed to be their next hope. The QB they could mold, promote, parade around like a shiny new toy. But instead, he showed up with his own narrative, his own team, his own vision. And suddenly, the franchise wasn't in the spotlight. They were the backdrop. And in the NFL, when a player becomes bigger than the team, especially a rookie, the system does what always does. It pushes back. Hard. The internal emails? Ruthless. Leaked memos described the brand launch as unauthorized influence over organizational narrative. Meetings became interrogations. Player reps were cornered. Even Shedeur's on-field reps started getting questioned. Why this hat in the post-game presser? Why that caption on Instagram? The tone had shifted. This wasn't about football development anymore. This was containment. But here's what Cleveland didn't understand. What Stefanski refused to accept. You can't contain a cultural shift. You can't terminate authenticity. You can't cancel charisma. You can't restructure a movement born in bedrooms and TikTok comments and stadium parking lots. SS Crown wasn't some cute side hustle. It was sovereignty. It was identity. And Shedeur wasn't selling merch. He was changing the playbook. Because for the first time in modern NFL history, a rookie quarterback didn't wait for the league to crown him. He built the crown himself. And that crown, it landed like a meteor. Fashion blogs, hypebeast culture, international influencers, limited drops that sold out in minutes, suburban dads reselling hoodies for triple the price, kids in high school lunchrooms debating colorways and symbolism. Shadur wasn't just a quarterback anymore. He was a language, a vibe, a movement. And the Browns? They were still trying to figure out how to control the press cycle. The disconnect was almost laughable. Cleveland's front office was operating on a 2004 playbook. Focus groups, internal brand reviews, chain of command thinking. Meanwhile, Shadur's empire was running on TikTok speed. Authenticity first, narrative first, community first. He didn't need a Gatorade deal to feel legit. He was a legitimacy. And the other brands? Oh, they were panicking. Adidas, Under Armour, even fashion labels outside the sports space. Everyone scrambling. Everyone chasing a crown they didn't see coming. Shadur had cracked the code. Don't sell products. Sell identity. Sell revolt. Sell something that feels like yours, even if you're just buying off a website. And the Browns tried to respond by issuing statements? Yeah, good luck with that. At one point, insiders say Stefanski wanted a brand alignment review with Shadur's camp. You can't review a revolution. And the craziest part? Shadur never said a word. No dramatic pressers. No rants. No dices. Just steady performances on the field and flawless execution off of it. He let the movement speak for itself. Calm, collected, regal, like a king who already knew the kingdom was his, and was just waiting for everyone else to catch up. But now, the Browns are scrambling. The terminations didn't fix anything. If anything, they exposed a real problem. They thought they were managing a player. They didn't realize they were trying to contain a force of nature. And what happens next? That's the million-dollar question. Because the whispers are getting louder. Tensions in the building. Questions about fit. Talk of distractions. Front office figures split between fear and fascination. The league is watching. Rival teams are watching. Players are watching. And Shadur? Still silent. Still surgical. Still stacking wins. And every time he steps on the field in that crown hoodie, every time the SS logo flashes across a sideline shot, every time another drop sells out in 18 seconds flat, he reminds everyone of the new rules. Build your empire. Own your story. Wear your crown. Let the old world panic. So what do you think? Did the Browns fumble the opportunity of a generation? Is this a blueprint for the future of athlete branding, or a culture clash destined to implode? Drop your take in the comments. Smash that subscribe if you're here for every twist, every power play, every unraveling contract and broken narrative in real time. And today's award? We're calling it the Try to Cancel Crown Trophy, and it goes to Kevin Stefanski for reminding us that no amount of terminated contracts can stop a cultural tidal wave. See you at the next meltdown. And don't forget, the revolution isn't televised anymore. It's merchandised. Because here's the thing about crowns. Once they're visible, you can't unsee them. And now that SS crown is out there, stitched into hoodies, tattooed on TikTok timelines, and burned the brain of every sports exec and sneakerhead with pulse, you can feel it. A shift, a power transfer. The Browns wanted a quarterback. They got a monarch. And that scared the hell out of everyone. Not because Shadur Sanders was out of control. No, quite the opposite. He was too in control, composed, calculated. He wasn't spiraling into fame like so many rookies before him. He was piloting it, like a chess master 3 moves ahead, letting the old NFL guard chase shadows, while he built a brand empire brick by brick. And at the center of it all, that crown. Simple, sharp, sovereign. It wasn't a logo. It was a declaration. A subtle, smug reminder that Shadur wasn't waiting for the media or the league or anyone to tell him who he was. He already knew. And now, thanks to SS Crown, so did everyone else. Kids were showing up to high school games wearing Crown hoodies instead of NFL jerseys. Stylists in Paris and Tokyo were referencing that minimalist quarterback brand in runway briefs. Hell, even rival NFL players were spotted rocking SS gear in the off-season. Quietly, carefully, but unmistakably. This was more than clout. This was cultural invasion. And Cleveland? They were still trying to control the messaging. Let's talk about that for a second. The Browns organization, locked in this weird 1999 mindset, where players are employees and image is managed top-down. They thought they could squash a movement by cutting off a few external consultants. They thought that removing a handful of marketing interns who reposted a few crown drops would stop the wave. It's almost adorable. They didn't realize that they weren't dealing with some PR-friendly, team-first, plug-and-play rookie. They were dealing with a disruptor, a player who understood that control over your story is more powerful than any endorsement deal you'll ever sign. Because here's the dirty little secret corporate sports doesn't want to admit. The narrative is the product. And Shedeur? He owns his. He doesn't need Nike. He broke Nike. The server crash was real. Orders backlog for days. Limited edition pre-orders flipped for 5 times retail on reseller sites. People weren't just buying gear. They were joining a movement. Wearing the crown meant something. And that's what every other brand in the game missed. It wasn't hype. It was symbolism. A statement that you could rise outside the system. That you didn't need permission to build an empire. That your story didn't have to start with a draft night and end with a highlight reel. You could write it your way, on your terms, with your name above the title. And that terrified people like Kevin Stefanski, because he's a system guy, a clipboard guy, the type who believes structure equals control. So when a quarterback walks in and rewrites the script before he's even officially QB1, that's a threat, not to the team, to the system. So contracts started getting reviewed. Access was restricted. External branding conversations were shut down. You know, in the name of focus. In the name of football first. But let's be honest. It wasn't about football. It was about insecurity. The Browns didn't know what to do with a player who didn't need them. They weren't used to the dynamic flipping. And once it did, they panicked. And here's where the real dysfunction starts to show. Because as SS Crown kept soaring, top-selling sports merch for 3 weeks straight, collabs teased with international designers, whispers of a short-form documentary in post-production. Things inside the Browns got ugly. Some in the building saw the opportunity, a chance to modernize, to lean into the moment. Let Shedeur lead. Let him show the world that Cleveland could finally be the place where the future of football lives, not dies. But the old guard, they saw insubordination. They saw a rookie going off script. They didn't see the brand. They saw a challenge to the hierarchy. And in a league still deeply married to tradition, that doesn't go over well. There were murmurs of distractions. Meetings behind closed doors where words like containment, brand over ball, and culture fit started circulating like smoke before fire. And Shedeur still didn't flinch. He kept showing up to practice. On time. Prepared. Precise. Kept throwing dimes. Kept managing the pocket like a seasoned vet. And after every solid performance, he walked off the field in his SS Crown hoodie, cool, collected, unbothered. And the message was clear. You can't fire me. I am the future. You could feel the tension boiling. Some players started picking sides. Some coaches, too. Half the building wanted to build the franchise around him. The other half wanted to control him. Spoiler, you can't do both. And now the Browns are stuck in limbo, caught between the old way and the new era, afraid to fully embrace Shedeur, but too scared to lose him, because they know what he means. They see what's happening. They just don't know how to lead it. And the clock's ticking. Every day they hesitate. The movement gets bigger. More influencers pick up the gear. More fans make the switch from team loyalty to brand loyalty. More players in other locker rooms start asking, "Yo, how's he doing that?" Because here's what no one wants to admit. The NFL is changing. Players are building identities before they take their first snap. Rookies are arriving with audiences, not just agents. And Shedeur, he's not a fluke. He's a blueprint. And the longer the Browns try to force him into a traditional mold, the more obvious it becomes. They're not just fighting a player. They're fighting a new model. So where does this end? Does Cleveland wake up and let the crown lead? Do they restructure around a player who's already 10 steps ahead of their PR machine? Or does this spiral into another front office meltdown? Another what could have been moment in Browns history? Because if they mishandle this, If they fumble this opportunity, try put lid on a fire that was meant to burn. The fallout won't just cost them a player. It'll cost them relevance. Because the world is watching. Young players are watching. Future prospects are watching. And no one wants to be part of a system that punishes authenticity, that treats power like a privilege instead of an opportunity. And Shedeur? He's just going to keep playing, keep building, keep dropping limited edition collections while running 2-minute drills. Because he doesn't need the Browns to crown him. He already built his own kingdom. Because if you think the story ends here, with a few firings, some panicked executives, and a quarterback rocking his own hoodie in the postgame, you don't understand how revolutions work. They don't end. They evolve. And Shedeur Sanders? He's not slowing down. He's just getting more precise, sharper, cleaner. Every move he makes is starting to feel like part of a larger strategy. Like this was an accident. Like SS Crown wasn't a side project. It was phase 1. The brand? Exploded. The player? Calm. The organization? Spiraling. Welcome to phase 2. Let's take a step back and look at where we are. The Cleveland Browns are dealing with what may be the most marketable, influential, and culture-shifting rookie quarterback in modern NFL history. And they have no idea what to do with him. They drafted a quarterback. But what they got was a movement. And movements don't ask for permission. They don't wait to be validated. They don't follow the chain of command. They become the command. SS Crown didn't just sell out. It outsold. Nike's own branded drops got buried in the digital stampede. Their site buckled. Their customer service team drenched in chaos. You know how rare it is for Nike to get out Nike'd? That's how deep this went. And who was at the center? Shedeur, not some PR team. Not some marketing director. Not a boardroom full of aging men in golf shirts. A rookie quarterback with a vision and the audacity to pull it off. And now, all the things Cleveland thought they could control, completely out of reach. You can't out-PR a player who already owns his press. You can't spin a narrative when the audience already believes in him more than you. And you definitely can't coach around a cultural icon without looking like the problem. That's where Kevin Stefanski finds himself now, stuck in this impossible space between old-school football logic and new-era player autonomy, watching his game plan walk out of the locker room, wearing a brand that he didn't approve, but the world already loves. Imagine trying to design a scheme around that. Imagine trying to discipline that. You can't, because Shedeur doesn't need your system to shine. He's already proven he can build something brighter. And that's the part that's throwing the NFL into a quiet, slow-burn panic. If Shedeur Sanders can do this, launch a brand, command a cultural movement, hold his own under center, and still perform like a composed, competent leader in one of the league's most volatile franchises, what's stopping the next guy? Or the next 10? What happens when this becomes the new model? When rookies show up not just with agents, but with creative directors. When they arrive not just to play, but to lead brands, generate media content, and shape culture before they've even signed their second contract. That's what this is really about. It's not just Cleveland losing control of the player. It's the league realizing they may be losing control of the narrative. Shedeur is patient zero in a movement that's rewriting what it means to be a professional athlete. He's not just challenging the power structures. He's showing that you can win without them. And that's terrifying to every gatekeeper in the game. Because let's be honest, the old model was simple. You drafted the talent. You owned the story. You milked the star for highlights, jersey sales, and a few endorsement deals you brokered yourself. The player? Grateful, hungry, malleable. But this is something else entirely. This is a player walking in on day one with a fully formed empire behind him, not begging for a platform, being the platform. And now you have to ask yourself, how does an NFL franchise manage a player like that? Do you lean in and give him the keys to the kingdom? Build the offense and the marketing around him? Let him be the brand? Or do you dig in your heels? Demand conformity? Pretend like nothing's changed? Cleveland's trying to do the latter, and it's not working. You can see the seams, the confusion, the internal struggle. They want to embrace him, but only on their terms. They want the highlight reel, but not the hoodie, the poise, but not the power. But Shadur isn't asking to be embraced. He's claiming his space. And every time he takes the field, he reminds them that he's not going to shrink to fit their expectations. He's going to expand the role until they have no choice but to adapt. You think SS Crown is just about clothing? It's about vision. It's about storytelling. It's about reclaiming control in a system designed to strip it away. That's why fans are obsessed. That's why athletes are watching. That's why every brand that isn't Nike is foaming at the mouth to get in the door. Because they see what the Browns refuse to see. Shadur Sanders isn't just a quarterback. He's the first quarterback of the post-corporate era. And that reality is going to keep making waves until someone, either in Cleveland or the league office, finally says the quiet part out loud. The power dynamic has flipped. The players aren't just part of the machine anymore. They're the machine. And Shadur? He's the prototype. So what now? Does Cleveland pivot? Do they admit they're in over their heads? Clean house and rebuild around the crown? Or do they do what so many franchises have done before, squander greatness because they're too scared to change? If history tells us anything, it's that old systems don't go quietly. They flail, they punish, they exile, they whisper words like distraction and diva and brand over ball to justify their fear. But Shadur is not flinching, because the truth is, he's not here to be managed. He's here to lead, on the field, off the field, in the culture, and when the smoke clears, when the old guard finally realizes that you can't fire a movement, it might be too late. And now, we've hit the point of no return. Because there's something in the air that no press conference, no front office statement, no carefully worded, we support our players tweak can fix. The balance of power has shifted. You can feel it in the tension between the coaching staff and the locker room. You can feel it in the way reporters dance around questions they really want to ask. You can feel it in the body language, the eye rolls, the quiet smirks, the passive-aggressive sound bites. Everyone knows what's happening. Shadur Sanders isn't just on the team. He is the team. And now that SS Crown has blown the doors off every marketing model the NFL's ever used, the organization can't just wait it out. There's no stuffing this back in the box. This isn't a rookie riding a hot streak. This is a full-on cultural event, and the Browns, they're background characters in their own story. So what does a franchise do when the story no longer belongs to them? Well, if they're smart, they adapt. They lean into it. They say, you know what? Maybe this kid knows what he's doing. They give him a room, not just to play, but to lead, to expand. They rebuild around his presence, not in fear, but with vision. But if they're stubborn, if they cling to the old playbook and try to discipline the culture out of him, then we know exactly what happens next. We've seen it before. The passive sabotage, the quiet benchings, the media spin about focus, the trade rumors that feel more like threats than possibilities. All of it done under the guise of team first, when what they really mean is control first. But Shadur's not playing that game. And that's the part that scares him most. Because he doesn't have a shout to make noise. He doesn't have to rebel to make a point. He just exists, fully formed, fully aware, fully in command of himself, and that alone rewrites the rules. It forces the question nobody in Cleveland wants to answer. What the best thing that ever happened to this franchise doesn't need them, not in the traditional way, not as a support system, not as a machine to plug into, but as a partner, an equal, a platform, not a prison. So here we are, a coach who can't figure out how to manage, a star who doesn't need managing, a front office paralyzed by a player who doesn't wait for permission, and a movement, crown and all, growing stronger by the day. Because the truth is, Shadur doesn't need to win the press war. He's already won the people. And once the people pick a king, you better believe they'll tear down an empire before they let him fall. Long live the crown. And pray the Browns figure it out before it's too late.